Everybody, and welcome to How to Grow. That's what I decided to name it. How to Grow, episode 2. If you were here last week and you stopped by, I was talking about some of the resolutions for the new year, but it occurred to me that I really should have used the first episode to talk more about why we're doing this in the first place, where we come from, what we do as a business. I always hate doing those kind of biographical things because it's not very interesting unless you just so happen to be going through it yourself. So I decided that today I would try to blend the two things. I would try to break down the strategy that I had when I first launched this business in the hopes that if there's someone else out there that is trying to launch a business similar to mine, you can learn from my mistakes while also kind of taking you through the stages of how this business evolved and what we're doing this year to further evolve it. So to get started, I think it's important to understand what Grow House actually is. We've called it different things, and by we, I mean my former business partners, my wife, myself, my team. We've called it a lot of different things over the years. It was a coaching program. It was an agency. It was a micro agency. It was a consulting program. It was a small business incubator. But at the core of it, really what we do is we help small businesses succeed. That's it. And we don't define small business by, a shoe store on Main Street or, a bedroom entrepreneur or a business that most people would consider not a small business at all, but a very large business, but still falls under the small business umbrella. Really, the way we define it is, you're a small business if the person who owns the business is still in charge. If that person still shows up to work every day, puts in the 9 to 5, leads the company, then I can still consider that a small business. Once you start getting a board of directors and, a corporate team and the owner, is just there kind of collecting a paycheck or counting his money, and then, I think you're well beyond the small business reach. But I don't think there's a hard number as much as the Small Business Administration would probably disagree. So we've always been focused on, it doesn't really matter where you're starting from, it's where you want to go, right? How can we take you from whether you're square one or square 20 to that next step. And so throughout that process, we've had to shift our business model quite a bit. And so I want to kind of start, I'm going to diagram this out because I think that's going to be the easier way to kind of understand this because it's arguably a little bit complicated. So let's do this. I got a fancy button to do that. So I'm going to try to make myself a little smaller here. Let's see. Oh, that's not going to work. Hold on a second, guys. Got to do a little bit of editing here. Make myself a tiny bit smaller. There we go. That's better. That's a less intrusive. Okay. So, let's gotta move this out of the way. So really, the idea of Grow House all started in January. Oh, that's weird. Oh, is this going to be a boondoggle? Is that what we're in for today? All right, hold on. Let's see if we can get this to work right. Oh, that might have been why. Let's see. What's going on here? It's funny. I did this right before, and it was working perfectly fine, and now it's kind of all sketchy. So I don't know. We might not be able to diagram this the way I wanted to. All right, that one works. That one works better. All right. So I'll just move that down. All right. So we really started in, I don't know, what is that? What is that doing? All right. This is just ridiculous. I think maybe it's because my computer has gotten too hot. I have a touch screen monitor, and I think that's what's happening. Is it's just maybe okay. So Jan 2020. I guess that kind of works. So Jan 2020, I had this idea that I wanted to leave corporate America and I wanted to come back to small business marketing. I'd grown up in the small business world, and I just really liked being able to work with the person that was actually in charge, not just some figurehead installed by a board of directors that didn't really care. They were just here to collect a paycheck just like everybody else. And that really irritated me. It irritated me to work for people who were really just there for a paycheck. They didn't have any drive or passion for the work. It was really just like, oh, is this or homelessness? So this seemed like a better option. And I hated that. I hated working for that kind of person. I really loved working with business owners because I felt like working with a business owner, you could actually get stuff done. And so in January of 2020, I started kind of probing around to this idea. I started talking to business owners in my area. I started talking to former colleagues and asking their advice. And I started kind of laying the groundwork for what this would become. Now, obviously, the next stop on the journey was everybody's next start. Oh my gosh, this is just a disaster. I'm sorry. Let me see if I can do this with them. That's not going to work either. Yeah, it's tough. I guess this is live television for you. Let me I'm gonna try something else. I'll be right back. It might take me a second to do this, but I appreciate the patience. All right. Okay. Let's see if this works better. I will switch my screen here in just a second. I just want to, before I make any promises, I want to make sure this is actually going to do what it's supposed to do. Yeah, this is going to work better. Cool. Oh, there we go. All right. I guess that app just wasn't the trick today, so we're gonna switch things up a little bit. We're gonna do this instead. This is a different whiteboarding app, so I'm hoping we have a little bit better luck with it. All right. Cool. Oh, there it is right there. All right. So like I said, start January of 2020. I don't know why it's all wibbly, but you get it. And then we run into March, right? So March 2020, everything shuts down. There's no room at the inn for anyone out there in business. No one's buying anything. Everything is complete hold. I was still consulting at the time, so hey, I'm still getting a paycheck. I'm still keeping busy, but the idea of starting this new agency completely gone. Not even an inkling of an idea at this point. But as we get deeper into it, April, June, July, I realized that there's never really been a better time to start talking to people about this, because whenever you approach anybody about marketing, they always assume you're trying to sell them something. And since that was the case, and I knew everybody was kind of handshake agreement, no one was going to buy marketing at the time, figured, well, why not use this time to actually talk to some businesses, see what's going on, see how I can help. So that's what I started to do. So in April of that year, oh, weird. I guess I can't do that. That was weird. That was my two-finger drag there. So April 22, I joined the small business, what was it, the Chamber of Commerce here. And I start going to meetings, and I start meeting different business owners, and I start having conversations. really things start heating up right in the summer, right after I joined. And I even as much as I was talking to people, as we got into July and August, people started like really adopting this, like, hey, we're going to be at home for a while. So things started really picking back up. So I was still having conversations, but as we got closer to the end of the year, I tried having more and more of those. Now, I did it again. That brings us to November. In November, I left that consulting engagement, and because of, even though I'd wanted to start this agency, I really was thinking like, the whole world is still shut down. This is not exactly the most ideal time to start a new business. Maybe I should just go take another job, find a VP of marketing or a CMO or something like that, and just be happy with it. And just take that for a while, bide my time. And I did. I went out, and that November I interviewed for like 2 or 3 different CMO positions, 2 or 3 vice president of marketing or marketing director positions. And there were some really good ones. Like I met an agency out here in Lidditz that was really promising. They were looking for a head of production. That sounded kind of fun. I'd gotten out of production a while back, and this seemed like a cool way to get back into it. I had talked to an MSP that was looking for a head of marketing in Reading. So I had a bunch of like really good leads, but in the midst of all these, kind of traditional interviews, 2 guys called me from Philly. Well, actually, their assistant called me from Philly and said, "Hey, I don't know if you remember, but like 2 years ago, you applied to a job, and it was for a strategist position. I think like had chief strategist or something like that. And I'd applied, and I don't even remember. I don't even think I ever saw the ad again of what it was, but." She's like, we're interested in, I think she said like that role isn't available anymore, but we're interested in talking to you about a new role. Can you meet with one of our founders in like 45 minutes? And it was this very like split, like I think it was an email, and then she called me right after, and it was like within a couple hours I'm on the phone with this guy named Eric. And so Eric and I are chatting, and he says, again, this is probably like December now. We're getting close to Christmas when this is happening. And his whole idea was, we're going to start as we're really disturbed by COVID, and we want to start this agency that focuses on helping small business owners. And immediately I was like, holy cow, this is exactly what I want to do. This is fantastic. So I was like, all right, so essentially, how does it work? How is it targeted to small business? He's like, well, it's really simple. The biggest thing small business owners need is advice. They don't need stuff. They need advice. They need direction. And so what we're going to do is we're going to put together these courses, and we're going to have some coaching, and it's all, you're going to meet with them for an hour at a time, and you're going to walk them through strategy, and then there's going to be coursework just to back it up. And at the time, this whole concept, which has now really proliferated, I will say it was not nearly as popular back then, but it was kind of new and fresh, and it seemed interesting, and it was different than what I was doing, and it got me out of production, which I was really happy with, because I had spent so much time in production and just advertising production, and I was like, it'd be really nice for someone to just pay me for ideas and not stuff. So the promise was threefold, right? It was one-on-one sessions. It was courseware. And then I think I'm trying to think of what the last piece of it was. There was one other piece that we had. It wasn't group coaching. That came later. Yeah, I'm not sure. There was some piece of it that was proprietary, and I forget what that. We don't do it anymore, so it clearly wasn't that important. But that was what it was. It was essentially, you'd have these one-on-one sessions, and then you had this courseware. And you had 3 price points. You had $99 a month, you had a $199 a month, and then you had I remember, it was HubSpot. And HubSpot's free. It's not very good anymore. Like it used to back then. There was no Go High Level, so HubSpot was kind of like the it tool. And then, this top tier was $3.99. And the idea here was, and I wish I could find some of the old drafts of stuff we were going through. But what I was really shocked by was that like all three of these were very, very similar. It was like something like, you meet with me once a month for $99. You meet with me twice a month for $199. You meet with 4 times. No, it wasn't even that. It was it's 99 is a quarterly meeting, 199 is a monthly meeting, and 399 I think was like a bi-weekly meeting or something like that. And then you get the courseware and you get the sessions and you get the courseware and the HubSpot and some extra fluffy stuff. So that was the initial kind of offer. And I had a huge problem with that. Because I didn't think it was going to work. Reason I didn't think it was going to work was because I'd been talking to business owners for the past year, and the number one thing they said is, I hate courses. They said, I don't have time for them. I don't have time to take them. I don't want to pay for education that I can find on YouTube. Half the time they don't deliver on what they promise. And at the end of the day, it still doesn't solve my problem. It just fills my head with more conflicting information, and I don't know what to do with it. I don't have any way forward to go. I just hate courses. I hate them. I don't want to take them. The only thing in my research that scored worse than the idea of selling courses was calling myself a consultant. People really hate the term consultant, especially in the small business community. So I hate to break it to any of you guys who are consultants and thinking about working for small business owners. First thing that comes with that is a title change, because consultant is easily, out of the, hundreds of business owners that I talked to over 2022 and the beginning of 2021, those were the 2 biggest pieces of feedback. Is don't call yourself a consultant. I hate consultants. They don't do anything for me. They just cost money and leave me with a plan that I don't know how to execute. And I don't want courses because they don't do what it doesn't help me at all, essentially. So because the main driver of this program, which would then become called Crackle, was these courses, I came back to them and I said, I can't sell these. I cannot sell a program where the defining characteristic is a course. 1, because there's a million other courses out there. 2, because all of your customers, I'm talking to the people who would buy this, and no one wants courses. No one wants to buy, especially a general marketing course. And so they said, well, what do you think we should do? I said, I think we should actually go down and interview, really interview, not just have conversations, not just pick people's brains, really go down and do some research and figure out exactly what small business owners need and how we can best serve them as the premier small business agency, which is how we wanted to position ourselves, right? So that brings us, so we're negotiating all of this at the end of the year, and we finally get down to like December, and I think we inked the deal in December, and I'm supposed to start in January, which I do. I'd say that I did start in January. So now we're in January, and it's 2021. And the big thing we do is for the first 6 weeks, from essentially when I started at the first or second week of January up until February, the only thing that we did was research. I just had meeting after meeting after meeting with business owners, talking about what did they like about marketers they were working with, what they didn't like, what were they confused about, how could I help. And I ended up creating the first framework that I ever would end up, actually using as part of what I teach in my own program. But I created it right here at the very beginning, and that was called the Feedback to Offer framework. And the idea with this one wasn't to go and build something that I could then sell, because I wasn't even really thinking about selling any of this stuff. I just needed a way to consolidate all of the feedback I was getting in a way that I could look at, because it was all unstructured. It's not like we were doing surveys, we were doing interviews. So it was all unstructured notes. I needed a way to consolidate all of that so that I could prove to these guys that we were going down the wrong path and that we needed to do something different. And so that's what we did. I went through and we did all this research, and I came to them and I said, what people really need most of all is 2 things. They need low cost creative, and they need the advice of what creative they need in the first place, right? What is the guidance of, do they need to do post on Facebook 15 times a day? Do they need to run ads? Do they need to do this? It's that same part that they had started with, which is we need to provide people guidance, but it needs to be personalized. It can't be in a course. It can't be in a group session. It has to be one-on-one, and it has to be the kind of thing that we can then position creative services. That was one thing that they were really strongly against, if I remember correctly, was that they didn't want to offer any creative services. We weren't supposed to be a creative service agency when we started, because that defeated the whole purpose of how this was supposed to live in their ecosystem. And that's the important part to mention here, is that they had a complicated ecosystem that we fell into. They had the big boy agency right here, right? This is Big Boy. This is not, they're not actually called Big Boy. But this was like, big companies, big Fortune 500 companies would be here. And then they had this little agency, and this was a content agency, and this was like $5K a month, right? And then they had us, right? Crackle. And Crackle was supposed to be the entry point, and then as soon as they got big enough with us, we'd go and pass them up the chain, right? And so eventually, the big boy agency, anyone who survived, anyone who grew from this to this to this, would end up there and served by a full agency team with like, $15,000 a month retainers, like you'd see in a big marketing firm. So when I said, well, hey, I want to do creative services, they said, well, that kind of messes up because our creative services kick in here. So if you're offering creative services and you're undercutting this cost, like that kind of puts us at a weird position. I said, I don't know what to tell you guys. I've done the research. This is what they want. They want advice and guidance, and they want creative services, and they want them tied together so that they feel like they're progressing through they're making progress, and they're not going to 15 different people for 15 different things. So they said, all right, try it. And so what we started doing, I wrote this whole huge marketing campaign, like all these funny ads. And I spent probably, so that was like maybe mid-February. That's like Valentine's Day. I spend the next 6 weeks writing this campaign, writing all these ads, getting everything perfect, working on the website, updating the copy because the website had to totally change because we changed the offer, updating the pricing structure and all of this. And the pricing structure we ended up with was just $99. We said, let's throw out everything else and let's just sell $99. Let's just see who we can get bite for $99. And so the day it was probably like the March 30th or something like that. And we were about to launch, and we go and pull the trigger. And within minutes, I get bing, 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 bing in my email notification that all of our ads have been shut down. And I'm like, oh crap, I must have like put in the credit card number or something. And I go in, and for no reason, no explainable reason that has ever been made known to me or anyone else on the team at the time, our entire account gets banned. First day of advertising, entire account gets banned. Now, years later, I learn after I saw this more and more, and I started doing digging, and I started asking around. The reason it was banned was because of the volume of ads after a period of no advertising. So they had advertised a little bit the previous year before I had come aboard to kind of test the waters, see what worked. And then it had stopped. And then when I relaunched, there had been a dormancy period, and that got us banned. So immediately we have this $99 offer that we think is just the cat's pajamas. We have nowhere to sell it to. So what do? We buy Bark Leads. And Bark Leads are essentially, it's like Angie's List for professional services, right? You're paying $30 to $60 a lead, and that lead is getting sold 3 or 4 times, and you're calling that lead, and you hope they pick up. And if they pick up, then you have a sales conversation. And if they buy, they buy. If they don't, they don't. Well, we closed our first client. I think I still have the piece of paper from it. But I think it was like beginning of April, and it was so slow going. And I just couldn't. I would talk to people over and over, and they would be interested, but then they'd be like, can you send me your resume? Can you send me this? Can you send me references? Like, they were treating me like I was applying for a job, not that I was running a business, and it drove me crazy. And I could not figure out why. I could not figure out. I was like, no one else. I am sure when I went and called, the guy to fix my sink or to install my drywall, I didn't ask for references and a resume. I just, looked at his website and hired the guy. Like, I don't understand why people can smell that we're a new business and that they should be skeptical of what we have to offer. And so eventually we get some clients together. We get about 5 clients together. And that brings us to, I keep doing that thing with my fingers there, sorry. That brings us to, I'm going to say like April of that year, right? April, May. So I have like 5 clients now. So not a lot of money, right? We are well in the red month after month, especially when you consider all the money we're spending on Bark leads and everything, right? At the time we were running HubSpot, which is a whole boondoggle, and it's a whole mess. But I finally get to 5 clients. It's probably more like 7 clients, and I get all of them to write me a nice testimonial, and I put it on the website. Oh, I forgot to mention also, around this time, we launched pay-per-click. So we looked at the spend on Bark, and the spend was just ludicrous. And we were like, I think we could do better if we were sending traffic to pay-per-click. So we started the pay-per-click campaign right around the beginning of April as we started weaning off the Bark ads. Because we had been using the Bark ads to test stuff during that period. I was writing the campaign in February and March. I was buying leads and having conversations as I was tweaking this campaign. So we get to the point where it's April. We launched this pay-per-click campaign with those websites updated. We have all this stuff going to it. Fantastic. Nothing. Tons of clicks, no conversions. It's driving me up a wall. So around, let's call it May 1st, I go and add the testimonials. And if you were here yesterday, I told part of this story, but you'll hear the rest of it now. Essentially, I had like 3 to 5 testimonials. I can't remember how many, but I put them on the site. And I kid you not, the next day I woke up and I had a calendar full of appointments. That's all people were waiting for. They were just waiting for the social proof that I was actually doing what I was saying I was doing on the website, in the ads and everything else. And as soon as they saw that, and it didn't even matter that the people were real. I mean, I think at the time I only had their first name and last initial. It didn't even matter that those people were real. They just wanted something to believe in. And that was one of the first big eye-opening experiences I had with this business, was that the proof, the hard, tangible proof that people need immediately goes away when you give them something they can believe in. If you give them a plausible outcome and show them that other people have gotten that same outcome, right? That will do more for your business than any amount of 40-page case studies. It just will. It's just that people are funny like that, but that's the reality of it. So now things are really rolling. So now it's like June, and that first week when we had it up, I think I closed like 13 clients. And now we had another problem, because when you close that many clients and you have to onboard that many clients and you don't have any system to onboard them because you weren't expecting to close 13 clients in a week, stress cracks start to show. And I quickly found out a couple of really bad things that I did in the offer. The first was the price. $99 a month is not tenable for unlimited. And because this is what it was when we finally launched, it was unlimited one-on-one. I can't apologize enough for how terrible that looks, but I don't know what's going on with my stylus here. It was unlimited. That's supposed to be unlimited. One-on-one sessions, and you could book them anytime. You just got a calendar link as part of the deal, and you could just book time on my calendar. I mean, at the time, I had no clients, so book 10 times a week if you want. That doesn't matter to me. I'm just happy to be doing the work and, hopefully getting a testimonial. So it came with unlimited one-on-one, and that was it. There was no course. There was nothing else. This was the whole thing, and you got that for the low price of $99. As soon as I started getting people in, I realized that by giving them unlimited and putting the onus on them, it didn't work. The system didn't work. People wouldn't book. People would pay me money and then never book a call. And you're thinking, to yourself, oh, well, that's free money. Not really, because you got to remember, these are people that hadn't been like on board. They hadn't gotten started. So they feel like they've paid money. And when the next renewal comes around, they've gotten nothing for it, right? And so what then happened was a big crash. So the next month, July, we had a monster kind of downturn in the business, because all these people we recruited that because it didn't stop at 13. We were up to like 30 clients practically overnight. The client flow was unsustainable because I couldn't serve all the clients. I couldn't have enough time on my calendar. People were starting to have problems booking. Some people wouldn't book at all, and I wouldn't have the time to onboard them and reach out and like really hold their hand. So it was a disaster. So July gave me the realization that the way I was doing coaching wasn't going to work. I needed to control the number of sessions, and I needed to have a better onboarding system. So now we're into July. We're about to get into the summer slump for most businesses, but we were churning right along. But we made some changes. So the first change was that we changed the pricing to $99, $199, and $399. And essentially, the way it broke out was once monthly, bi-weekly, and then weekly. And I will say, I'm skipping a little bit of the details. We actually had 99 as a weekly for a brief period of time, like a week, while I was trying to figure this all out. But by July, we had really settled in this thing. Now, again, they were not buying courses. There was no course component. There was you could email me whenever you wanted, and you had your monthly, bi-weekly, or weekly meeting. And we ran this until about August, when we ran into our next major roadblock. So now it's actually, I'm gonna kind of skip forward here, because it's September at this point. So it's September 2021. What happens in September is we hit our cap. We can no longer grow whatsoever, because I've hit, like, I think it was around 60 clients, and I am working 12-hour days to try to keep them all happy and answer all the emails, and then also try to take sales calls somewhere in there, and then recruit more clients. And I went to my partners and I said, I got to turn the ads off. Like, we've capped out. We've hit our cap. The problem is the revenue in a model like that is not very much. I mean, if we looked at, say we had 60 clients. Let's just use that as a place to start here. We probably had 20 at the $99 level. We probably had 10 at the $399 level. And then we had, what would that be? That's 30. So probably 30 then at the $199 level. And so if you do the math there, hold on. That's a little slightly bigger number than I was ready to compute. Let's see. Where's my calculator here? There it is. Okay. So we got 20 times 99 plus 30 times 199 plus 10 times 399. So all in, it's like 12 grand a month, roughly, right? So 12 grand a month. And for a business that just started, 12 grand a month in revenue is pretty good if you have low expenses. But we had anything but low expenses. We had very, very high expenses. We had HubSpot. HubSpot was like $2,000 a month. We had my own pay, like they had to keep me fed, right? So I was pulling in the lion's share of that. And then on top of it, we had the advertising expenses, which, if you've ever run pay-per-click ads, not cheap. So even though we were netting $12,000 a month, we were still in the red all day, every day, every single day we woke up. And the problem is now I couldn't grow. I was totally stuck. My calendar was absolutely packed. And so we pulled it in. We rolled the rugs in. We said, all right, we're not taking any more clients. We got to figure this out. And that's when we came up with the idea of group coaching. So it was probably around October or November when I first started doing live streams and group coaching. And the way I did it was I used to do a stream like this, and then right after it, I would have the group coaching session. And really the idea was, well, hey, if I'm going to give this like lecture in a group format every day or once a week, it was only once a week at that time, then, might as well record it, might as well stream, might as well get some content value out of it. Okay, cool. We'll do that. But it was a lot of work, like coming up with stuff to talk about for an hour at a time, which I don't even think I was doing that. I think I was doing 30 minutes a time. It's still a lot of stuff you got to come up with. And at the time I was trying to do like really structured, formal, like nice slide deck, all that kind of stuff, and put it out there. So it was a lot of work. And one day I realized that I looked at how many people were watching, and there was no one watching. Not even my clients were watching this tutorial that I was making for them first and foremost. And I was like, why am I doing this? Like, this is just ridiculous. I shouldn't do this at all. So I stopped live streaming. So if you go back onto the old Crackle YouTube, you'll see the date I stopped live streaming. That's the moment I realized what was going on. And I started just doing the regular, just the regular group sessions. So we started doing one-on-one group sessions. And that then brings us into, so we have groups. Now, around this time, around December, I start talking with my partners about this issue of capacity because, okay, we now have this group coaching session that helps alleviate some of this, and we can plan to cut back on some of these plans so that 99 will only be group sessions, and 199 will 199 and 399 will still be the same, but at least the 99s, I'll get these 20 people, I'll get them off my calendar, right? That'll save me some time, but that also doesn't save me enough time. It doesn't save me enough time to do the sales as well. So then we start looking at, well, we need to hire another coach. We need to hire someone that can not only coach, but can sell. So enter Tanzania. We had a really remarkable way that I went through the hiring process. And I am really proud of what I built to go through that process. What I'm not proud of is the outcome of that process and how badly we failed when we hired our first employee. What essentially happened was I said, I don't care about resumes. I didn't have a great resume when I first started consulting. I had a terrible resume. I was constantly fighting against my resume. And yet I knew I was really good at certain things. So I didn't want to go and dig through a pile of resumes and just judge people based on that. I wanted to meet them first, see if I liked them, and then we could look at what the specifics were, right? Let me see how they can actually handle themselves on a call, because this business is all about being in front of people, being in meetings. So we do this thing called the instant interview, where someone submits a very short application. I'm still, to this day, I've never seen anyone put together a better job application than the one I put together, because it was like 4 questions. It was like name, email, phone number, and then like, who is your favorite US president? Like that's all. And then the rest of it was book an instant interview. And this was fantastic because I was able to meet all these great people. And I still, to this day, think I met some really great people that I just missed the opportunity to hire them because they wanted too much money at the time, or they took another job. I had a couple people that I thought were perfect that took other jobs. And then I had some people that I was really like strongly interested in that then told me, I don't really think I'm right for this. Enter Tanzania. I'm not going to use his real name because this isn't meant to like name and shame, but it is important to the story. He was a gentleman that I recruited. We recruited through the same process. He said he had a decent amount of experience. He doing this stuff. I walked him through how this business works, and everything seemed like it was a good fit. I mean, he really seemed like he was going to be a good addition. At the same time, we also had this other girl who I also really liked, and it was really between the two. And I took both of them to my business partner, and I said, "These are my two selects. These are the two people I think would be best. Who do you think we should go for?" And without missing a beat, they picked Tanzania. They said he has more experience. He's been out there more. He's done sales. Pick Tanzania. Okay, cool. So we picked Tanzania. So Tanzania starts with us. And the first problem is that Tanzania has too many bosses. He's talking to me every day. But then my business partners, who are, granted, they're funding this from their pockets, are also talking to him because they want him to succeed too. And they know that sales, not really my strong suit. I do it because I have to, but I'd never go out and say like I'm the world's greatest salesman. It's just not my cup of tea, right? So they're trying to talk to him. They're telling him how to sell. I'm telling him how to sell. We're both telling him how to sell completely differently. They're telling him how to sell based on their experience at a big agency. I'm telling him everything those guys are telling you isn't going to work. Like these are smaller clients. You have to sell it this way. Plus, he also has coaching clients. As I start closing clients, I'm trying to give them to him to pick up and run with. It was a recipe for disaster. And so we hired him in January. He lasted until March. Or no, he lasted until February. I'm just going to do a heart. Till February, probably right around Valentine's Day. No, it was after Valentine's. It was right at the end. He quit. He said, I just can't do this. I don't know who to listen to. It's not a stable enough working environment because we were still building and changing, and like we would make changes, and they really wanted to pull back on some of the value that I was providing in some of these programs, and I didn't, and we were arguing back and forth a lot, and I think for him it was just too much, and he decided to leave. Now, coincidentally, that was also the final straw for my business partners. As soon as he left, 2 days later, I think, they came to me and they said, buy us out. At the end of the day, this had been a grand experiment that, in their opinion, had failed. It didn't hit the numbers they were hoping to. They didn't see the way forward. They didn't see how they could turn this into a multiple $1 million business overnight that they could then sell to the likes of GoDaddy or Vistaprint and make a mint on. They no longer saw the instant scalability that they were hoping for when they started this. They saw something that was very personalized, that was very time intensive for me to put into the business. They saw something that at the end of the day would be a great business for me to run by myself, not a great business for them as investors in terms of excess cash flow. I disagreed. I thought there was room to run. I thought that a lot of these issues would work themselves out as we adjusted things, as we made better offers, as we navigated this. However, to tell you the truth, I was kind of ready to cut ties and be on my own. Like for 2 years, I'm working for somebody else or two other people. And like I was mentioning last week, I wasn't excited to get up and work in the morning. Like I was really dreaded. And I would go through this after our weekly meeting. Every week I would go onto LinkedIn and look for other jobs because I was like, I'm not invested enough into this to stay with this if I feel like I'm just going to get railroaded on all these things that I really believe passionately about. And so when this came up, they told me right at the beginning of March, they said, we want to be out by the end of March. I moved heaven and earth to make this happen. I tried to raise capital, didn't end up working out, but was a great experience. I ended up getting financing to buy it out. I negotiated the whole deal by myself. Meanwhile, my wife is 6 months pregnant. So Molly is coming in 90 days. For those of you wondering if telling your 6 month pregnant wife that you're going to buy your business partners out of a business 90 days before she gives birth. I wouldn't recommend it. I will give Kelly credit for not losing her absolute head over it, but it certainly wasn't nearly as exciting for her as it was for me. I saw it as, you know, a jailbreak. I was getting out of this thing. I was going to be on my own. She saw it as the lifeboats being cut from the sides and us drifting slowly into an iceberg. Fair enough, right? Like, the business had struggled, but I knew that if I could have that complete control, if I could really design this business to run the way it was supposed to run, that it would be profitable, that it would grow, and that it would be something that could sustain the kind of long-term growth that they didn't think was possible. And so that brings us to, let's see, I have to create a new page here. Got to reset everything. There we go. So that brings us to April 1st. April 1st of, it's kind of a funny day to buy a business, is April Fool's Day, but April 1st of 2022, right? Because we just finished 2023. Yeah, so 2022 was my first day as the sole owner of what used to be Crackle and what immediately was transitioned over to Grow House. I did not waste a minute. I hated the Crackle branding from the beginning. I thought it was really weird. It looked too much like the Sony Crackle television channel, and I wasn't a fan. I wasn't a fan from the beginning. I let that be known, but this was the story. This was the brand they wanted to go with, so we had to stick with it. That was part of the negotiation when I first joined them. But April 1st, I threw out everything orange and red and black that I had, and immediately everything was green. Because I had really loved the brand Grow House. Grow House was something that Kelly and I had worked on. We had done the branding for. We had done all this in preparation of launching this agency and never got a chance to actually do it. Like, we'd done all this work in 2020. That was great. It was really strong. It was a good story, and it wouldn't work. And so 2 things happened right away. First, right after they told me that they wanted to buy me out of the business, they essentially said, you have 30 days to recruit as many clients as you need. You have the marketing budget we set you. After this month, you're not going to have it, so you might as well use it. So I launched a campaign called Crackle. It's Crackle's birthday. And to date, that's one of our most successful campaigns. We ran it on Facebook, and we finally got our account unbanned. We ran it on Facebook, and I was able to have, it was the best month of sales to date. Was that day, the month that they told me they wanted me to buy them out. And the reason was because all of the limitations that they had put on the program I removed. So I took it back to the simple $99, $199, $399 offer, and I just sold the crap because I knew it would sell. And I knew that all I would need to do is not provide. I went through the financials and I said, well, if I eliminate this HubSpot cost and this agency cost, we were paying an agency $5,000 a month. We were paying another agency $3,000 a month. We were paying the HubSpot like $2,000 a month. I was like, man, if I cut all this stuff out, this pencils 110%. Like, this business is totally profitable and functional day one. All I have to do is kill this stuff. All I have to do is take all this stuff off and these contracts, and I'm good. And so that's what I did. I canceled all the contracts. I had all this new money coming in, all this new clients coming in, and it was perfect. And it was like, finally, I have this sense of like, I'm actually making progress. I'm not in the red every month. I'm profitable. And so the first 3 months are just a absolute, it's like a weird, it feels like you're in a washing machine, because I'm having to implement all these new systems. So we're having to get new bookkeeping software, and we have to, transition bank accounts and transition email servers. And like, there's all this stuff going on all through April and May and June. In the meantime, Kelly is getting closer and closer and closer to her due date. And so that's really wrapping up. And so I get to a point where I'm like, all right, we have to, we're getting to a place where we can't just like drop everything for 6 weeks. So how am I going to approach this? So I made one of the biggest mistakes of my life, which you'll see why. So this was, let's just call it like June 15th now, right? So we're now on June 15th, and I make the big announcement. I make the announcement that I'm going to take 6 weeks of paternity leave. Now, just because I'm taking the leave, though, does not mean that you're not going to have access to me. At this time, we had the group session, so I said I'm still going to do group sessions. Here's the schedule. I'm going to take a couple weeks for right around the birth, like right the 2 weeks after, just to help her transition and recover. But then I'm going to do group sessions again, and then I'm going to slowly work way back into regular stuff. Now, in my current agency now, I have total confidence that I could probably do this and pull it off a lot better. But the problem was that at the time, I was the only person in the agency. Kelly was the creative back end. She was humming right along, but I had no team. I had nothing to keep the momentum going. So it essentially felt like, from my client's perspective, was that I was throwing the brakes on the train. I was just throwing them on, leaving it, letting it crash into a bunch of stuff. And in their defense, that's kind of what it was like, because I had been going so fast trying to fix all this stuff, get ready for this, that I was ready to check out. Like, by the time June 15th and I was drafting that email, I was like, I'm ready to take some time off, because I'm stressed to the nines. So this is like, my daughter's born July 11th, or 10th, July 10th. So this is like a month ahead. I make the announcement. Everybody oh, congratulations. So excited, this, that, and the other. And great. Fantastic. I think everything's going to go great. We get through the June to July. It's now time for baby Molly to arrive. And, I'm getting everything ready. And at the same time, I knew I needed to hire an assistant, because I knew coming back from this, coming back from this was not going to be like a just flip the lights back on and everything's back to normal. I'm going to have a lot of backlog of work to get caught up. And I really need someone there, now that Kelly's not going to be in the business, to help manage everything, to help find vendors. And so I have that kind of on the side too. So the day Molly's born, I send out an email saying, all right, Molly's here. It's official. We're going to be, I'm going to be taking some time off. Here's the schedule again, where I'm only off for 2 weeks. And then for the rest of the 4 weeks, it's just group sessions. And then I'm back full term. I think I said September 1st. So it was like end of July, I'm not going to be here. All of August, you have group sessions. And then 4 times a week too, like 4 times a week group sessions at this point. And then for September, I'll be back in the works. After I send that email, I close my laptop and I try to get some sleep, because, it's the hospital and you just can never sleep when you're in there. And as soon as I'm about to fall asleep, I hear ding. I look at my phone and it's a cancellation from one of my clients. And I go, uh-oh. For the next 6 hours, I get a wave of cancellations that clear out roughly 80% of my revenue. Overnight, 80% of my business vaporizes. And the story is the same with every client. Hey, seems like a good time to transition out. You're busy with your kid. We don't want to be a bother. We need to keep our business going. So, no worries. So overnight, I went from having this finally profitable, tuned, running, successful business to being massively underwater, and also the father to a brand new baby girl. And that's how I started July. That's how I ended July. So July was simultaneously the happiest month, happy face, also the most agonizing month. Agonizing face. It was awful. It was absolutely terrible to be like, well, what have I done? Like, now I'm so far in. I took on debt to go and buy them out of the business, and I leveraged everything on this, and now it's falling apart. But I had enough of a runway that I could hire an assistant. And so the day after my wife gave birth, I hired what was now my vice president of operations, Lady. And Lady was an absolute godsend. When I interviewed her, I knew she was perfect. She turned down my first offer, and I begged her to come work for me because I was like, I'm never going to find anyone as perfect as you. And she somehow, after I begged and pleaded, accepted the offer and took it and has been with me since, and is like to date, I would count not just an amazing employee, but a good friend. And she's unreal. She helped me navigate what should have been all but certain doom. She helped me pull out of that. And one of the things that really got us moving again, because I first thing I did was turn back the campaign that had been successful in March. And I put some money behind it and it did nothing. It was crickets. Whatever had worked earlier in the year did not work now, and I wasn't getting anywhere. Luckily, just by the grace of God, I had plenty of referrals come in just around that time. A lot of those people that had left had not been upset about the performance. They just, they thought it was a good time to move on because I was going to be out for a while and they didn't want to stop their business. But they sent me a bunch of business knowing that I was going to be back. So, I had some business come in September and October that floated us, that like we were able to pay all the bills, pay lady, everything, like we're okay. And then when it comes to November, I'm on TikTok and I see this ad for a TikTok agency. And I forget what the ad said, but it was just one of those things that's like, hey, are you tired of like Facebook ads like being crap? And like, do you want to advertise on TikTok? We can teach you how. So, or no, actually, that's wrong. I'm telling that out of order. So I had actually seen that the previous year. And in those last 30 days before my business partners were in the business, I spent some of the ad revenue to pre-buy consulting time with them to get TikTok up and running. Around October, I was running out of options because Facebook wasn't working. There was no more referrals coming in. And I was like, I got to do something. So I called up this agency and I was like, all right, I'm ready to go get on TikTok. They were supposed to originally shoot some ads for me and they were supposed to do a bunch of stuff. And none of that really worked. They're nice guys and all. I like them, but their creative was really bad. Their creative for their ads is fantastic, but their ads for me were really bad. And the campaign itself just didn't do anything. But what they did do was they showed me how to set TikTok up. They showed me how to use TikTok. And so before I let them go, I still had like 30 days. I was like, all right, I'm going to record an ad. And I recorded an ad and it bombed. And at this time, one of the other things I had spent money on was I had hired this this other coach, this coach that was supposed to help courses and consultants or coaches and consultants grow their business. And I bought this. It's called like, it's not Clients on Demand. It's the other one. It's Client Accelerator or something. I don't remember. But it's this British guy. And he's not good. Like, he doesn't know what he's talking about. And that became immediately apparent as I'm going through the courseware. And there's errors all over it. There's typos. He says one thing in one module and says something in another. And so I am just like, I'm getting really fed up, but I spent a lot of money for it. So I'm trying to play nice and I'm trying to like do the ad the way he says to do it to see if I can, do this because I want to get my money back, but I had to do all the things so that I could show them I did all the things. Now give me my money back. So the ad bombs and I'm like, I'm just so sick of this. And so I sit down and I write probably 3 different ads and I read them all into the camera and then I watch them back. And one of them just felt like it was my best read. And I turned that on 2 days before Thanksgiving, turned it on TikTok. So now we're in November, right? Current mood, festive, but not really. I was feeling pretty bad. I was like, nothing's working at this point. This is really my last Hail Mary to make this work. And if this doesn't work, like I got to figure something else out because this isn't going to be tenable for very long. So I go and launch this ad. It goes live on Thanksgiving Day, which, you think, what a terrible day to go live on. But I'm busy all day because I have a new baby and everybody wants to see her and we're at my mom's house and all this stuff. And I just, I can't be bothered to look at my phone to check performance in all this. So I put my phone down. I come back. Everyone leaves the house, plenty of stuffing and all that. I grab my phone. I sit on the couch and I open it up. And I have 7 meeting bookings for the following Monday. 7. Like from 9 in the morning until 5 o'clock, I have booking after booking after booking after booking. And then I go to Tuesday and I have 4 bookings. And then I go to Wednesday and I have 3 more bookings. And I'm like, all these people booked in one day. Every single person booked today. I'm looking at all of them, and the ad's only been live since 9 in the morning. So people are watching my ad while they're cooking dinner, and they're signing up for this. And I'm like, holy cow, this is actually working. But I was reluctant to really buy into that this was going to be a success, because I've been down this road before. I've had lead ads generate monster amounts of leads, and no one shows up to the meetings. But I was just like, all right, let's see how we can do this. What happened next, this is really between December and February of the next year. I sold more than I have ever sold. I was closing deals just about every single day. It was unbelievable. And I got to the same point in February where I actually had to stop taking clients again, because I had too many clients. I had too many people. I couldn't serve all of them. And again, I had to look back and figure out what is the problem. But this time I had a solution. Prices were going up. Up until this point, up until roughly November, before I launched that, I had kept those same prices, those $99, $199, $399 prices. But what I realized in October of that year was that people would pay more. I started trying different prices, and I got some of those referrals, and that helped give me a little bit of wiggle room to run those ads. So I was like, well, if enough people will pay me at this rate, I can make this work. So what I did was I took the package that was originally $399, and I practically tripled it. So it became $997 a month for the same thing. It was the same package. I just increased the price, and this went away. Now, what I did, and one thing I would recommend everybody do, is grandfather in your old people. Don't pull the rug out from under them and tell them all of a sudden their rate's going to triple, because you're never going to get a referral from them. They're going to be really pissed because they've gotten used to that pay. If you have to raise prices, if you're like, listen, my survival depends on it, then explain that and say, listen, what can we do? What's a fair amount to raise you each month until you get up to this number? But the reality is what I told people from the beginning is, those people that were there with me in the beginning and had stuck through the birth of my daughter, like, I'm going to treat them right. I'm going to give them the deal of the century for as long as I possibly can. But for new people, they were going to start paying this. And that wasn't even the highest I was asking people to pay. I was asking people to pay even higher than that at the time. But this was like the median. This was like I was closing a good amount of business. So I started doing that. And then that brought us into the next month. So now we're in so we're in February and March, and I realize, one, I need to hire more people. At this point, we had hired one other person, but I needed more people because I had videos that needed to be edited. I had big campaigns that were coming up that were going to be launched that I needed people staffed for, and I needed I needed to have control over some of the production streams that were becoming more and more prevalent as we grew this business. So March was all about recruiting, but it was also about reformatting the offer. From March to April, countless, God, what is going on there? March to April, I spent countless hours going through and figuring out exactly what was wrong with my offer, the coaching offer, and tweaking it, and then seeing how I could make it better and more valuable and charge more at the same time, because there's this delicate balance, right? You can't charge too much for something that isn't worth it. You also don't want to charge too little for something that is super valuable. So you have to find that balance. And so from March to April, I was like laser focused on this one thing. And this is March, April of 2023 now. So this is just last year, right? And what I figured out after doing a bunch of tests, and we did a whole bunch of things. We did a marketing on demand formula where you could just submit requests for different marketing assets and we would just do them. that didn't work. You can imagine how bad of an idea that was, but I wanted to try it. It was a weird, crazy idea I had, and I was like, well, let's see what it does. I had tried a bunch of different service models in that kind of arena of like, well, how do we group creative services in with this? And I couldn't really find a good way, because one of the things I hated was going back to a client and saying, hey, I need you to spend more money with me, especially when I knew they didn't have it, and that was the thing. And so what I ended up doing was I just ended up giving away a lot of stuff over the years, which isn't good for business, as any accountant will tell you. So what I ended up doing was, we have this period, and I realized that there's this price point that keeps jumping out to me, which is $497. And it jumps out because if I don't do the one-on-ones, if I cut out the one-on-ones altogether, and then I offer a limited set of services, this number kind of works. It's not super profitable, but I can feel really good about selling it. I make a little bit of money, but I can help people in small groups, and I can help people with the creative services. I can also provide them tech support for this. And that became my offer. That became what's now the flagship offer for Grow House, which is, it's a small group coaching program that includes limited creative services and tech support. Now, if you go back and you remember what I was saying initially when I was interviewing those people, in those business owners, in terms of what they actually needed, what was really going to help them, they said they needed personalized direction. They said they needed integrated creative services so they weren't wasting money everywhere. And the last piece they told me was that all this technology left them more confused, and they ended up not doing things because they didn't know how to do them. When you put these things together, this is a package that practically sells itself. And when I cracked this, and when I started selling it, and I started seeing people come in and buy this over and over and over again, I realized I was onto something. Now, the problem with it is that as it scales, this price becomes harder to justify. It also becomes just not profitable, because this is the most important thing to me. These other things, these are nice. These are the things that are probably, if you ask my clients, it's probably the things that are most important to some of them, because they really like the fact they get the creative services, they get the tech support. But for me, to make sure that I can help people the way I believe they should be helped, this is the most important thing, is maintaining a small group. In order to keep this group small, but still keep this profitable, this price has to change. And that's where I'm at now with this. As we go into 2024, I have to raise the price. Does that mean it's going to raise for all of my clients? Absolutely not. If you're on this plan right now, that's what's going to stay. If you sign up tomorrow and you're on this plan, that's what the price is going to stay. However, I need to raise the prices. I need to make it more like this. That's the new price I'm aiming for. And you might think, well, that's a lot of money to spend on marketing help, or a group coaching program, or something for some suite of services. But if you really think about it, how much do you think it would cost to hire a freelance graphic designer, a freelance web designer, or a freelance anything on a monthly basis? It's going to cost a heck of a lot more than that. How much do you think it's going to cost to hire a marketing consultant with the experience that I have to come in and sit in on your business and meet with you 3 times a week for 90 minutes a piece? It's going to cost a heck of a lot more than that. How much is it going to cost to go and try a bunch of different tech tools and then hire experts to implement them in your business and all of that? It's still going to be cheaper than that. And that's where this price comes from. It's not because, oh, I just want to make more money. It's the reality is that in order for me to make this program sustainable at this price, I have to double the number of people in the group, which sucks. I don't want to do that. I want this to be 10 people max, because 10 people is the perfect number for this program. It's the perfect number of people that I can see on a regular basis. I can know their names. I remember their faces. I know their families, and I can make sure that I'm doing my part to help them grow, not just sidelining them like every other coach does with the 400 other people on their Zoom call. I don't want to do that, but I have to charge this to do it. So now the challenge becomes, will people buy this same product, but for twice the price? And I don't know. We're just starting that journey. I'll tell you in a couple months if people will buy it. My guess is that they will. But this is now going to become a different type of buyer. This type of buyer is going to be more discerning. They're going to be more interested in the fine print. We used to say with the creative services that it was limited creative services. And essentially what this means is if there's, and this sounds really weird, but if I'm sitting with you in a session and I say, you know what, your website is just garbage. We need a new website. We need a new landing page. We need to put a better face out there. And I have 2 clients that we're doing this right now. I'm going to cover the cost of that development. I'm not going to charge anything extra. That's just going to be part of you're going to keep it when you walk away. I'm not claiming any ownership. There's no leasing agreement or any garbage like that. No, I'm saying you need that. I'm going to cover it. It allows me to be generous without it coming out of my own pocketbook, which is what was happening previously. Every time I'd want to be generous, I was robbing the till. Pricing it like this, providing this limited set of services allows me to have that generosity, but it also allows me to make sure that we're not getting overrun with the requests of like, hey, can you edit my podcast? No, we can't edit it. So really, we need to get more specific about what this is. What is limited creative service? And the way I've described it recently when I'm meeting with my team is essentially limited creative services is one-time creative executions that are required to move your business from where you are today to where you want to be tomorrow. That's it. It's not the best. It doesn't give you all the bells and whistles, but it at least gives you a flavor of what I'm trying to accomplish here. And so my real goal in all of this is to make it so that there's never a situation where your marketing is hindered by the ability of you to pay another freelancer, another web designer, another who's a what's it, in order to go through and do it. Go through and actually get the work done that you need done to move your marketing forward. And so that's where we're at right now with the coaching business. Now, some of the other ideas I've had is, when we stumbled upon this $497 thing, I was like, well, that's all I'm going to sell. But then very quickly, some people popped up that were people that were just getting started. There were people after my own heart that, I was in their shoes once too. I was getting started. And they looked at my pricing and they said, I just can't afford that. That's too much. So then I started thinking, well, what can I do for them? And so I came up with another $99 plan. $99, I swear I'm going to get it like tattooed somewhere on my body because I just can't. It's unavoidable. It's inescapable. But it's a wonderful price point. Pricing something at $99 is like pricing it's the perfect price. This or 90, you can make it 97 if you really care about it, but it doesn't matter. $99 is the perfect price point because it's just enough where people have this idea that what you're giving them is valuable, but it's still affordable to the large majority of people. And so as long as you can deliver something that's scalable, it's going to work. So we have this program called Day One for $99. It's a really good program. It's once a week. You meet with someone. It doesn't come with any creative services, but it gives you that personalized attention. It gives you someone to talk to, me specifically, in these sessions. So I want to keep that. So I have this right here, right? This is my low ticket. And then my high ticket is the $997, right? This is the top tier. What do I do here, right? What is this? So I have some ideas. So my first idea is, and I'd love feedback on this, by the way. I mean, I'm just putting this out there because I'm hoping someone will chime in and be like, yeah, I like that. I'm going to buy that. So essentially, it's splitting the difference between these two and saying, all right, so what is the middle point of this, right? So I'm thinking it's probably something like $399, and I'm thinking that if it's $399, maybe what it is three sessions, right? You get the coaching sessions, no creative. right? Awful. I don't know why it keeps doing that every time I get to the bottom there. But so maybe that's it. But this is what we're experimenting with at the beginning of the year is like, okay, if we're going to raise this price, how do I make it so that there's still other options out there? Or do I do it at all? Do I just say, listen, there's just not going to be this. We're going to do it the same way. This is the program. If you can't afford this, then we have this. The problem is that it's really hard to climb from this to this, right? It's a lot of work. You're going to spend a lot of time here before you get from here to here. So there's a lot to think about when you're pricing a program like this and when you're creating an offer and how you want to structure this. And there is no real true right answer. You just have to try things. You just have to keep pushing out there. You have to keep going out and having sales calls and have people tell you no. And then you go back to the drawing board and you say, well, how can I make it better? How can I make it so they say yes? So that's really where we are with the coaching business. This went on a lot longer than I expected. But I think it's the first time I've ever told the story front to back all the way up into present day. Because this is what we're looking at right now. I have a really great offer. I need to fix the pricing. And then I need to finish recruiting for the offer so that we pack it out. Because ideally, the idea of running this coaching program in my grand scheme of things is I want this packed out at all times to provide a level of stability for our agency work, which I think we'll talk about next time because we're getting a little late here. But the reality is that in growing this business, and I think this is the part that a lot of people don't understand, is that I don't look at any of the things I do, any of the businesses I invest in, or any of the businesses I'm involved in as lottery tickets. I don't think that one day this is going to become $1 million business. It could. That's cool if it does. But that's not my goal. My goal is to help as many people as possible inside this model, inside the model of, I'm going to sit down with you. You're going to come in. I'm going to help you overcome the challenges you face, because that's what it has proven works, right? So even if this isn't the thing that makes me $1 million or $1 billion or whatever amount you want to put on it, it doesn't it's not any less valuable to me, because the value I'm putting out in the world means everything, right? The fact that I can go and see the testimonials people gave me that said, hey, you changed my life. That means more than any dollar amount, right? So, I mean, I think, Greg, I forgot to talk about Greg. Greg just popped into the chat, and I want to call him out. He's the one that got away. He is probably he's one of my biggest regrets with this business. He's a phenomenal, he could have been an amazing coach, and I couldn't pay him. I didn't have the cash flow to pay him at the time, but Gregory Charles, I don't know what you're doing now, buddy, but you were a big part of the story. You were here you were here right around the time when my wife was giving birth and all that stuff. But yeah, that was right after I bought the business. I ran into Gregory, and he was amazing, and he got stolen from me by a nonprofit who had the gall to hire him as a CMO, and he took all their nice paycheck and a company car and a whole bunch of stuff. So, but anyway, I loved working with you, buddy. So yeah, Greg, I'm glad you chimed in here. But anyway, getting back to the point, this is what it's like when you run a coaching business that's not just out of a playbook. That's not just everybody else's, because I've worked with other coaches, and 9 out of 10 coaches do coaching wrong. They do it so blatantly wrong because the people that teach them how to run coaching businesses are bad at coaching themselves. What they're really good at is making money and selling promises, not delivering the goods. And so my biggest thing for you is, if you're out there and you are trying to build a coaching program, like, share, and subscribe, man. Come back, watch the rest of this, because what my hope is that I can break down exactly how I'm going to grow this business, exactly the challenges I'm facing, and really, for the most part, show you exactly what it means to actually run one of these things at scale. Not when you have 5 or 10 clients, but when you have 20, 30, 40, 50 clients. It changes the game, and your math changes, and the value you provide changes. And there's so many things about this business that you aren't going to find in a course, that they're not going to tell you. And you could struggle for years trying to do stuff the wrong way because no one's going to tell you you're doing it the wrong way. So I'm here to tell you you're doing it the wrong way. So hopefully that doesn't scare you off, but I'd really love if you'd tune in. I do this every Tuesday. I was late today. I tried to start at Tuesday. We had a weird scheduling snafu, so I had to start a little bit late. But I try to do these 2 to 3:30 every day. Not every day. Sorry. Tuesdays and Thursdays. Thursday, we have a really good show. I'm going to be speaking with one of my top case studies. She is unreal. She is absolutely one of, like, when I tell you like overnight success, she's the closest thing I've ever had to like an overnight success. I took her from, I think she was doing launches and she was making like $200 or $300 in a launch. 30 days after working with us, she did a $10,000 a day launch. It's unreal. She's one of my favorite clients. She's been with me a very long time. She signed up, I think, right after I bought the business. She was in that kind of Facebook campaign. But I will say, if you want to learn from someone who is fascinatingly smart about funnels, but does not come from a marketing background, does not come from the traditional business background, but is instead a school teacher, Juliana Tapper, who's going to be on the show on Thursday, you got to listen to what she has to say, because she is truly one of the best funnel hackers I know. And you would not guess it from her background that she is as wicked good at cracking the code on especially course funnels and coaching funnels. She's the one you got to look at. So make sure you tune in on Thursday. Same, well, not same time as today, but 2 o'clock, we're going to go live with her. And every Tuesday, I'm going to do something like this where I break down exactly what I'm dealing with. Next week, we're going to talk about, I named this thing wrong. I should have named next week's episode this, but next week, we're going to talk about the agency side of the business, because that's the other part of the business that I'm really looking to grow in the new year. And that is my riskier play. So while the coaching business provides stability, my agency provides scale. And so I want to look at both of those, talk about some of the other businesses I own. And I hope throughout this process, you can kind of learn by seeing my mistakes and hearing the stories and seeing what works. And if you ever have questions or are interested in learning more, I'm here. Shoot me a message on Facebook, LinkedIn, Twitch, wherever you're seeing me. I'd love to talk to you. I'd love to learn more about your business and see how I can help. So for now, I'm going to cut it off. You have a great rest of your week. I'll see you on Thursday. And thanks for hanging out with me. Appreciate it.